Welcome back to another episode of the Dope Stroke podcast. The three of us are back together. Daryl's got some fantastic subjects for us to cover this week. Dazzler, what are we hitting up?
Well, last week was controversial, very much aligned with your mentality of head-offs all week, so we're going to talk about head-offs.
I think before we get started, I do think we need to get in quickly that this particular podcast is sponsored by Men's Face Cream. You can get it in your local supermarkets and online.
No, in all fairness, I've had a rough weekend. Boys, I've had a rough weekend. That's why I'm probably like, look, let's get this going. I was meant to play the club championship this weekend at the local course that I'm a member at, and Thursday afternoon turned out to be rather emotional when my preparation meant taking place on the porcelain chair, basically. Not good Thursday afternoon. So Friday morning, tea time comes around, bowl down to the golf club. And I'm like, right, okay, how am I going to be here? How am I going to do? And I start loosening up. And I'm like, can't really feel where the club is. But also, I've had to strategically figure out that the first sort of like comfort break is the back of the fourth hole. So I'm like, can I make it from here to the fourth without... I had a change of clothes in the bag ready for this situation. So, like I said, I can't feel where the club is. So I decide on the range in my wisdom, I'm going to stick an alignment stick in a position halfway down my downswing and see if I can just start to hit some nice draws. Obviously, the alignment stick causes you to get a bit shallower and miss the stick. Don't advise it for everyone, but I'm not really a normal human, a bit of a psycho, while trying to hold in shit. So I'm like, okay, fair enough. So I get this 4-iron out, right? And I basically am either going to follow through or hit the 4-iron on the stick. And I chose to hit the stick, which then snapped the 4-iron. The 4-iron goes 60 yards down the range. I managed to clench my butt cheeks at the same time, so that was all right. But I basically sat there and I was like giving it one of these, rubbing the face cream where the face cream would be. And I'm like, am I going to A, go and get that 4-iron, B, going to bother playing this thing because I'm struggling, considering I've hardly hit the middle of the club. Now my 4-iron's down the range. The guy who eventually goes on and wins it, he stood next to me. He goes, do you need that one? And I'm like, whatever. I'm just like over it at this point. So anyway, I cruised in the shop and pulled out because it was either do that or it was going to be chaos. It was going to be tough.
Is that not the second time you've hit an alignment stick in as many weeks, though? Did you not learn your lesson from what happened in your little back garden practice station?
Yeah, I should have. But basically, I was just really forcing it, obviously, without trying not to force it. I was forcing it. And that fear got the better of me in the end. So I chose not to play, which I was gutted about. But you know what? I was wiped out all day Saturday. Wiped out. Done. Toast. Just sound asleep. And then obviously I took one of those Imodiums thinking we've got to solve this problem. Well, that's a mistake because then you basically don't shit for a month. It's just like brilliant. So, it wasn't really the headline I wanted for the podcast, but I kind of figured that I might as well tell you what I've been up to because it ain't a lot because I've been struggling.
Trottie, I can see it now. The Dope Stroke podcast show. Trottie shits himself.
But I didn't, though, did I? I didn't. I do you know what, though? And there is a lesson in here. I was proud of myself for making the right decision. Like, I really wanted to play, but it was 80 degrees, because you boys said it was hot there. It was 80 degrees, and I'm like, I don't know how this is going to go. I was weak from the day before, because literally it was like, there was nothing going on. Like, done. The night before was over. And I was like, okay, this is going to be a tough one.
In the US, Trottie, is Club Champs basically the same as it is over here in the UK? It's obviously in the UK, it's normally kind of height of summer. It's normally 2 rounds, sometimes the same day, sometimes over a weekend. Obviously, most prestigious thing you can win at a golf club. Is it the same in the US? Or is that like a member guest opener? Is that bigger?
Member guest big, yeah.
So we don't have that in the UK. They don't do member guests here, do they?
Yeah. The member guests and the member members need to be adopted. Actually, they do a member type thing in the UK, but they need to be adopted in the UK. They're massive. The problem with the club champs at this golf course is I've never played it, so I can't tell you if it's a big deal. The field was pretty small, which surprised me. I know when I was at Goat Hill, you'd fill out that thing. I mean, it's an honour to play in it, right? It's the scratch tournament. There's no handicap, so there's no sandbagging. Although sandbagging doesn't seem that bad at this golf course. They keep a good monitor on it, but that is a problem generally in America. Like everyone says, oh, I'm a 5, and they play to like +2. So that's an issue, especially when you get to these member guests, Bubsy, because you're playing for some serious prizes, especially at the bigger golf courses. But I think it's still probably the biggest one. It's done differently to here. I think the way it's done differently to the UK. The UK has the medals and then even puts on a midweek medal. That's such a great way of doing it. They don't do that here. There's a Friday game. That's it. This course, which seems it's more arranged by the boys, play for cash. Great event, good fun. But it's not. You're not playing for the medal every week. It's just quite different. But it's fun, but it's more casual, which I'll be honest has been difficult for me to adapt to, as I'm sure you can understand, boys. I'm still trying to find my way to the more casual golf situation scene. And then they put on this tournament. There's one place that's like this big team event, and I've obviously got into this thing, being really casual, turned up and realised that the gear is totally flipped. Like, this thing is not casual. That thing that I played in at the start of the year, that's probably the biggest event of the club, and that ain't casual. You need to have your A+ game and mindset for that. But it's good fun, and there's my story as to why I didn't compete in the club championship this weekend, which I was gutted about because I wanted to. Devastated is what it is.
Did you ever win club champs, brother?
No, never won a club champs.
No.
Runner up 3 times, but never won one.
Oh, really? Well, yeah, it was the one I always wanted to win as a junior. I started relatively late in golf. Probably I didn't join a club till I was like 13, 14. But the first club I joined, I really wanted to win the club champs, and I never won it. So the one year we were always 2 rounds, but it was in the same day. And I can't remember the exact scores, but one year I think I shot 68, it was just 3 under. And I think the next best was 1 over. So I had 4-shot lead going into the second round. And I think I shot something, I can't remember, maybe shot 1 under front 9. And the person that was second shot kind of level. So I think I was like 5 clear. And then did a thunderstorm. So they decided to call the whole thing off and play it again the following week. And everyone's going, and I remember in the clubhouse, they kind of made this suggestion, and basically everybody went, yeah, great idea. And I'm there with my hand up going, hang on. I'm 5 clear here. So anyway, we scrapped it, played again the next weekend, and I got into a playoff.
How old were you the first time?
I was still a junior, so I'd have been 17 maybe.
And this is the men's club championship.
This is the main club champs, yeah.
That's such a British thing to do.
Totally.
That's terrible.
Ridiculous.
So we played it the weekend after. And I can't remember what I shot, but I got into a playoff. There was 2 of us that tied the same score. So the way they did it, they played, I think they were like the US Open or something. They decided to do like a 3-hole playoff rather than just a straight shootout. And I remember walking to the first tee, there's a few people, and it's probably the most people I played in front of. And I remember walking to the first tee and thinking, like, I play this hole really well. For me, this is like a driver. There's a bit of room right. I can leak it a bit right. As long as I get it out there, it's only like 90 yards into the green. And the other guy I'm playing with,
what golf course is it?
This is Oxley.
Okay.
So the other person is Andy. We mentioned him on the other podcast. So I remember standing on the tee thinking, like, this is my hole. This is like, I've hit driver really good all week. Driver's my strength. And I've stood up there and I've hit this driver and I've got it like right at the middle. And it feels like the best struck drive you ever hit. And it's just gone 40 yards, clattered into a tree. It's like 20 degrees. I don't know how I've hit this thing so far right. The face must have been like 10 degrees open. And I think I made like 6, and yeah, that was it. Gone. So.
And that's Andy Proudman.
Yeah, and
so it was another young guy. At least it was another young guy. I know it doesn't make it easy to take, but I've been at golf courses where they've had controversy around juniors winning men's stuff. It's why are you letting them play then? Like the way they do it here at this place is so when you buy a membership, which is again very different to England, the whole family gets the membership. But it's only the primary member that can play the tournaments. So that's how they get around having the kids play in the tour. But there's a couple of kids there that are very good players. I mean, they should probably be able to play. You know what I mean?
It was interesting about that story. Like, I reckon I'd have been like 17, and that was it. I'd like just played competitions at that club, and I'd won some competitions. But obviously, when it's a competition, you go out there with your 3 ball. It's handicap base, you post your score, you come in and you look at the board and you're like, oh, I won that one. But this was like club championship, probably the second or third time I played in it. But you're still out there in your 3 ball. There's no one out with you. And I remember getting into this playoff and then walking to the tee with Andy, and there was like 40 or 50 people. And then I hit this ball that was like the worst tee shot I've ever hit in my life. It went so far right into the tree. And I remember thinking, this pressure thing's pretty real then, right? That was the first time I'd really gone like, this is different, and obviously it wasn't huge pressure, but I remember thinking like, this is different to just going around on your 3 ball and posting a score.
In South Africa, where I grew up, we had lots. It was a very competitive environment, as you can kind of imagine, in South Africa. And there's almost a tournament every day. And on a Wednesday, you typically have what was called a meat day. So the meat day was sponsored by a local butcher, and you'd be winning steaks and lamb and biltong and all this legendary, produce from the local butcher. And pressure is knowing that you've got like an 8-foot putt on the last to win like 10 kilos of fucking meat, which will last you the next month. That, my friend, is pressure.
Yeah, we weren't playing for meat.
I think it's a good point now, and I think it's a funny one. I think the first question would be, do you think the pressure of winning money off your buddies outweighs the pressure of making a putt to win a club tournament? When there's no money on the line, it's just the pride of winning the tournament. Which one do you... I know they shouldn't be any different, but do you categorize them? Because for me, the winning the club tournament, even now, means a lot more than the money. Like the money, I think I've always been like that. But like the money, whatever. You win 100, you lose 100. You win 200, you lose 200. You win 20, you win. It is what it is.
But the money's not the pressure, though, is it? It's I would feel. I would probably say I would feel generally a little bit more pressure playing with you, Trottie, than I would in a club championship, because beating you is way more satisfying. So what I'm trying to say is it's a different pressure level. So it's never about the money, though. So it matters less to you, but it matters to me. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. So I guess I'm asking Chris here, as he's the coach on here. How do you make everything? How do you? Like, I don't know. Obviously, I got sick, so I'm trying to think, was I ill this weekend, or was something not right? Like, obviously, physically, I wasn't right, and I did the right thing. But, the guys the scores were good. I'd have had to have played well to have been in the mixer. Haven't been playing great for a while. Other things on my mind, but I wanted to play well. And I generally, in the bigger stuff, tend to elevate. And it's like, I'm sure there's people listening that are the same. How do we get our peak elevation performance more often?
Great question. I think it's all to do with how you frame it in your mind. I think I would say, look, I'm okay admitting this. Maybe a few years ago I wouldn't have been great at admitting this, but I would happily admit that I'm a poor performer under pressure when it comes to golf. And what's interesting, going back again to that story, I feel like that stayed with me for a long, long time, because I joined a club. I just played in monthly medals, Staplefords, just the local stuff, because I took up the game quite late, didn't really play county stuff. And so I do
can I ask you before, did you get to choose to play with your friends in the midweek stuff and the medal stuff, or were you paired up with an adult?
Yeah, you could choose who you played with.
So you could play with 3 juniors if you wanted to.
I can't remember. No, I think you had to play with adults, but you could choose.
But you'd bring in a buddy who was over 18 or over 21. Yeah. Okay. So
I remember going to this first tee and remember thinking, like I said, oh, geez, that's pressure. And I think that was the most pressure I'd ever felt, because there was people around. It's the club championship. I hit one of the worst shots I've ever hit. And I think that stayed with me. I think it stayed with me for a long 100%. Time. I felt like, pressure, I don't perform well. And I think for me, it's how you frame it. And I think what I've struggled with, if we went to a tournament, right, if there was 100 people playing and the par was 72, right? To me, I got obsessed with shooting under par to the point where it became a big thing. So if I went to a tournament, there's 100 people playing, and the worst score was 66, right? So it was the world's easiest golf course, right? Last place was 66. If I was going to shoot 71, which is under par, I'd be nervous, even though I'd be dead last. So I mean, to me, it was, and I'm like, it shouldn't be about. And if I went to another tournament where like the best score was 73 because it was a really hard course, I wouldn't be more nervous about shooting 72 and winning it. So I just think I framed pressure poorly in my mind right from the get-go. I think I had a bad experience and it stayed with me, and I struggled to overcome that. But I think it's very much, it's obviously mental, but I think you just have to keep putting yourself in that position. And I think that put me off a little bit. And I tried to avoid situations of pressure because I had a bad experience early on. I think it stayed with me for a long time.
So do you think even today you try and avoid situations of pressure?
Knowing what I know now, I'll try and embrace it. But I think subconsciously I avoided it for a long time, and probably didn't sort of face it head on, which I probably should have done. But probably didn't get the right advice when I was 17, 18, really.
So going back to you and I, when we connected for the first time after a while up in Scotland, I feel like I need to rephrase that. We played golf together in Scotland for the first time after. And I don't know if you remember, but you played nice, real nice.
Yeah, played right.
And it was windy, always is. And I can tell you now, there would have been a lot more than 40 people watching that video when it went out.
Yeah, it's true, but that feels different, doesn't it? Because it felt like it was me and you and a camera person. So it felt if you'd have told me that at the time, I probably wouldn't have played as well. But it does feel different when it's just me, you, and a camera person. You sometimes don't think about where that content's going and who's going to see it and how many people it might reach.
So as obviously, I think what makes for a good podcast is when someone's quite vulnerable. So as I said, I nearly shit myself on the first tee this weekend for various reasons. I'll stay the vulnerable one, will I? And basically, I think my golf game has had a bit of a downturn as a result of like YouTube stuff. It's not easy to play on YouTube, I don't think. Now, look, I put myself in some situations that were maybe a little out of depth given how little I was playing. Like I played, I know we're going to talk about it, open qualifying. Obviously, we want to talk about the pre-qualifying to get to the finals. But I played with Pete Finch in that under the lights. It was a good thing out in Phoenix. Yeah. My game was nowhere near. Like Finchy played well. I hit a couple of good golf shots, but it was like flashes of okay golf. He played solid. We ran like top 5. To be fair, if I'd have played half decent, we could have probably got into top 2, no worries. And then who knows what would have happened in that scenario. But you can see with him, he plays regional golf, which for anyone listening to this is PGA regional golf. How would you describe that? When you become a PGA pro, you're open to playing in these tournaments against other PGA pros. You play for small purses. He does that and he gets it going and he posts, even if he doesn't play well, he posts. But you can see he was quite tournament sharp, to which, like I say, I wasn't. I had no real business being there. Got through thanks to him, but I think, or got through it all. But I think the point is like you have to stay sharp. You have to keep doing it. And I want to re-embrace what that feels like, but it's difficult, man. I mean, how do you trigger yours? Because ultimately, whether 10,000 people are watching or whether it's just me, you, and McD playing golf, it's the same golf shot. You know what I mean? That's the way you got to look at it, but it's hard.
But I think I play quite a bit of golf with you, Trottie, and I would say that you're pretty good at whatever the circle. You got your shot that's in front of you. You select your shot. You go through the motions as you would as a part of your routine. But I would say that you're pretty good at staying totally committed and aggressive to the shot that you're going to hit. Like you do that.
I think though, as we get older, I think the library of good and bad shots, they both grow. But I think that we label the good ones because our expectations expect to hit good shots. We label them less than we label the bad ones. So say you hit a bad shot in a scenario, like I've hit plenty of good shots in tough scenarios. And I can recall maybe 3 or 4 or 5 of them, 6 of them straight out the bat. But with the bad shots, you just keep labeling them. And I think that that's a really hard thing to do. And then all of a sudden, I don't know. I just think that's what gets difficult. And I think as we pivot a little bit to what Pete's done, and I know it's only pre-qualifying, and people that know the system will be like, oh, it's only pre-qualifying. You know, I think you have to take your cap off to Peter Finch, the YouTube influencer. I don't think you'll mind me calling him that. Great effort, guys. Great effort to go and get into the final qualifying, based on the fact that I think he's playing with a lot more pressure on his shoulders than everyone else in the field. He doesn't need to do that. He could just do what, not that we would play, but I might consider it if I felt my game was tip top. I mean, obviously, I'd have to fly all the way from California to the UK and blah, 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 which is a different story. But he commits to that every year. He's got through to the finals this year, which I'm proud of him for. He'll go to the finals. He'll have 300-400 people following him round. 100% he will.
Yeah,
I
agree. I think he probably does carry more pressure because he does expose his golf game out there, doesn't he? He posts his scores. He'll put the video on YouTube, so he knows that he's going to go up for the world to see. Plus, as you say, he would have had, I don't know how many people he would have had at, I think it was Colby played. So he'd have had crowds following him, so more pressure. But final stage, which I think is tomorrow, is Dundonald, and he was attached there for a long time, wasn't he? So he'll know the course really well. So,
but does that add pressure then?
Well, I mean, it probably does in a way, but it puts him in a better position, I think, long term. I think, going back to pressure, I don't think, something like, let's say, going to open qualifying final stage, the pressure, if he was to do that year on year on year, the pressure probably doesn't change. But probably what does change is your ability to realise how your body changes, realise how to deal with that, realise the things to put in place. It's more experience, isn't it, really? More than the pressure goes away. I just think you learn to deal with it better.
Yeah, I think so. On the subject of good and bad shots, do you remember the last hole you played against me at Dundonald? In particular, the third shot?
I do, but I'd like you to just relive it for me.
Good. All I'm saying is, as long as you remember it, because I guess you would be, you've told me this horrendous story about, I blasted this ball and you described yourself as hitting it out the centre and off it went on a right angle. It's like, yeah, it's fine. I guess it's funny, but, let's not overlook that you were one down playing the last and Dundonald has a par 5 you can reach into. Obviously, Bubsy hits it so far, misses the fairway, bad lie, had to lay up, lays up, leaves himself with probably like 90 yards or whatever, pins back right, and this green runs in a funnel from front left to back right with a little tiny creek, one of those Scottish efforts just off the front. So I guess you can overspin it, or you shouldn't be thinking the worst, but a high to mid handicapper would be worried slightly about that little ditch. The idea is it's there for the second shot for the hitters who hit it like Bubsy. Anyway, your man stands up here and lands the first bounce in the hole, and second bounce is like a foot away from the hole. And Trottie's just chilling, laid up, hits it left of the flag, being all conservative. Now I've got a little chip over a little mound to try and hold it, to try and win the game. Obviously didn't make that. Actually a decent chip, which I'd give $1,000 for these days. And we halved. But in all fairness, I had no right to be up going into the last because I didn't start very well from what I remember. And then I settled in a bit, and it was really windy. But
it was really, really windy, wasn't it?
Lovely. It was a hell of a wedge shot. Hell of a wedge shot, Bubsy. So...
That was, and there's a little message there for anyone listening. That pin was, as you say, it was tucked back right, and as I remember it, the ball literally came down on the flagstick, and I was aiming, maybe 5-6 paces left of it. So if I'd have gone at it, which some people would have done in that situation, thinking that I'm one down, I'd have pushed it 5 or 6 yards right, and it would have ended up in that drink. So even when you've got a wedge, you've got to be playing a little bit safe. And a lot of the time, I think you watch the golf and you see these top players hit it to a back right pin, and obviously they're not aiming 30 feet left, but very often they are aiming a couple of paces left, and it just happens to be a little push, and they're just playing the percentages, aren't they?
My first hole in one, I wasn't aiming at the flag.
Oh,
we end up saying, no, and I pushed it, which I don't push many shots, and I pushed it about 3 yards, second bounce in. But you know what? Don't matter now, it's a 1. Exactly. But as we move on to other subjects that happened this weekend, what about P. Reid? I know we had the drama last weekend of the captain winning, and I've seen a lot of controversy about his celebration, which I know we touched on briefly. But then you got Patrick Reid getting it done this week on Live, which I don't actually watch any Live. I'm going to be honest. My Live content is literally just through social media. Huge Patrick Reid fan, which could be controversial, but I think he's an absolute legend of a bloke. Good golfer, grinds like you wouldn't believe, and gets the win. I mean, if it's my Ryder Cup team, I am picking him 100%.
Really?
100%.
I mean, I wouldn't know
he's
off
short
the top of my head,
game,
but his major performances haven't been good at all, have they, this year?
No, they've been decent. He was kicking. Hello, Lauren. Get on Chat GPT. But I'm telling you, they have. I thought he did well at the Masters. I know he's talked long and hard about the Open Championship. He's put new golf clubs in his bag, which he does not change golf clubs. He's got his daughter's putter in, which is a duplicate of what he plays with her, like stamping on it. 17-foot birdie putt on the first day. Hang on. This is Lauren's first rodeo, is it? We're asking you for his major performances here, Sweet Pea. I mean, Jesus, Mary and Joseph. What are we getting here? So he was heckled as well. Do you guys know he was heckled last week? I think that's what Lauren's referring to here. He was heckled, and your boy Thomas Peters walked off into the crowd and had a little chat with the guy in the hospitality, like, what you do? Because he's his teammate. And he's like, what you doing? And then Reed stands up there, cans it, and gives it the old, like, simmer down. But no, I think he's played well in the majors. We'll find that out. And Daryl's gone on mute here. There's the first.
He's trying to talk and he's muted himself.
He's just muted himself.
Well, I'm so used to your 47%, aren't I? Yeah.
I mean, talk about work shy.
We'll just quickly run through for Daryl how podcasts work. So that thing in front of you, Daryl, that's a mic, right? You talk into that, right?
Okay.
And that comes through. We record that, and then we post it, and people listen.
Well,
what a shit house.
Well, I'm you guys are the veterans. Don't leave it to me to keep this show going. Jesus Christ. Anyway, the Masters, he finished solo third on 9 under.
Did
There
he?
you go.
Yeah.
How did I miss that?
PJ Championship, he did miss the cut, and then the US Open, he was tied for 23rd, and then at last year's Open, I think this is last year's Open, he was 10th, tied 10th. So he's done okay,
and he hasn't lost a singles game in the Ryder Cup. And
I think
his short game is insane,
which you would need a lot of that in New York for the Ryder Cup for sure. So I actually think it's a good shout, Patrick Reed, for the Ryder Cup.
So just going back to him winning Live, his first win. I'm like you, Trottie. I don't watch it. I don't know about you, Daryl. Like the amount of money that they've been paying players to move across to Live. Obviously, there hasn't really been many in the last sort of 12 months that we know of. How can they have an event? Because it was Dallas, I think. How can they have an event? And I'm pretty active on social. I follow a lot of golf accounts. I did not know that tournament was on until I saw some clips of Patrick Reed holding that winning putt. Like, surely, with the amount of money they've got, they can create some sort of buzz or excitement around it. I don't know these events are happening. So, for me, it's not a conscious effort to not watch them. I don't even know they're happening.
I don't know if the YouTube people that push it are the type of demographic that you might follow, though, because I'm not really. I follow Rachel Drummond because I know Rachel. I think she's actually quite good at what she does, to be fair to her. Swings it like a legend. She's the commentator, the anchor girl that goes on the range. Her knowledge of golf is good. She swings it good. She's a nice girl. So I'll see a lot of what goes on through her. But beyond that, you get into the rest of the crowd that they tend to have at the events. Not really not on my feed. So it comes through either Live Golf or some of the players that I follow. But I think that's probably why you're not seeing it, because they're quite American focused, unless it's the Live event in the UK or Live events in the UK.
Do you see much on Dazzler? Do you know they're on?
I do, yeah. But then equally, I probably follow more Live related people and accounts than I suspect that you do. Just because I've been quite close to the action related to Live over the last few years. So I feel like I just know more people. I'm just more connected to that space. I just naturally see it. I just naturally see it a bit more, That's all, really.
Tell your Live friend story.
My Live friend story. Which story is that one, then?
Story. Tell us your Live story. Can you not tell us your Live friend story?
It's the aeroplane story.
He's got to have told it once already, Annie.
I don't know. I'm not sure if I have,
You've told it.
Are you talking about the flight that I was on from Portland back to Ireland?
Are you talking about?
You mean that one? Mate, I'm not going to lie to you, but that was by far the most impressive plane ride I've ever been on. And it's quite surreal, though, because you get into the airport terminal, you get kind of like shuffled into what feels like a sort of a conference hall, a small, like almost a meeting room, really. And security come in, they start checking your passports, make sure, it's the right people going to go on this plane. Then you get into like a little minibus type thing, and then they drive you to your plane. And it's funny because you're driving past like epic sort of private plane after private plane. And then you got, what's his name now? Butch Harmon's son. What's his name? Claude, that's it. Claude Harmon's in there, and he's obviously cracking all the jokes, and he's happy to be on this flight as well. And he's basically saying, "Oh, look at all the riffraff flying on all those private jets. I bet they can't even stand up in those little tin cans." Anyway, we get to our plane, and ours is like it's a palace made by Boeing. Really, that's all I can describe it as. And you get in, and it's got like a restaurant on there. It's got every beer you can possibly imagine. The food is unbelievable. And anyway, we start taking off. We get to take off in your seat. It's 88 seats.
Hold on. You haven't mentioned this as one of your best beers you've ever had.
Oh, maybe I should have. Well, I had a shot. I had a couple of shots of Dustin Johnson on the plane. I remember that specifically. And then a few hours later, I remember
Dustin Johnson's friends.
Yeah. At least I got friends, mate. And then, a few hours later, a few guys are absolutely galactic, right, in the restaurant. I mean, they're so smashed, like you can't describe the level of pissed. In the restaurant bit of the thing, yeah. Which is kind of serves as a dual restaurant stroke bar on the plane. And everything's plush and it's a beautiful plane. And you've then got Pat Perez singing "We Are the Champions" on the plane. And that, I don't know if you guys remember that, but there was a couple of clips and videos about that went viral because obviously talking about we are the champions and all about the money and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. I'm in the video. You can't, I'm in the background and you can see me, but I'm in the video. And I just remember thinking, oh shit, I hope nobody recognizes me here because this could end in tears potentially. But I tell you what, as plane rides go, the best 8 hours I've ever had on a plane. And for a reality check, we've landed in Shannon Airport because it coincides with the reason why this plane was put on was to get a lot of the live players to Ireland for the Pro-Am that takes place with
Dermot.
Dermot. Yeah. So Desmond Dermot. And anyway, we get into the airport and reality bites when my connecting flight to London is a Ryanair flight. And I'm sat in 21B, the middle seat.
And she's asking you if you want to pay £6 for a quack.
Yeah.
So who was on this plane, Daryl? Pretty much everyone. It was the whole live field and players, caddies, coaches, managers.
Well, there was an 88-seat plane. I remember that. And there was about 40 people on the flight. So there was a few agents. There were a few caddies. There were a few players and then some peripheral people as well. But largely, that was kind of the three groups that you would see. So some of the, Dustin Johnson was on there, Lee Westwood, Poulter, they were playing cards on the plane. I mean, it was a great ride. It was awesome. And just a handful of guys then decided to take full advantage and try and drink the whole alcohol contents of the actual plane, namely caddies in particular, which wouldn't be a surprise.
Do you think cards has the same pressure mentally as hitting golf clubs?
Maybe at 40,000 feet with some chips on the table, who knows? Impressive.
The flip side of it, and that is an impressive story. Well, actually, there's one more thing. Obviously, at a live event, which I think is quite interesting, they tee off as a shotgun start, don't they? Is that even in the final round?
Yeah.
Yes, but interestingly, and I don't know, maybe the last sort of 8 or 9 events worth, but the winner in every live event has come from the final group, which means on the Sunday they've started on the first.
Okay. It's just an interesting way to do it because the flip side is obviously having been a little crook this weekend. Crook translates to sick, not stealing things. You watch the PGA Tour and you know what? Boys, I hate to say it. I tried to flick it on 3 times. Obviously, you got a seniors major on, which we'll cover that in a second. I tried to put the PGA Tour on 3 times. I think it was that Rocket Mortgage one, wasn't it? Detroit. So I know it, been there, good venue, cracking little golf course. Like you drive through the ghetto, and then all of a sudden you're at this old school golf course. I remember people telling me the first time I went there, don't be stopping at the lights. Don't be stopping at the lights on the way in. It's one down from where Eminem was. Like, obviously, he was 7-mile drive. This thing's on like 8-mile drive or something. And it's sketch, proper sketch. And I'm cruising around looking for a bougie coffee shop. And people are like, what are you doing at 7 in the morning? Get to the golf course, get your head down, and get in the property because it's not good. Anyway, flick it on a few times. First complaint, it's adverts every time you turn it on. So even when you get through now with satellite TV, you get through the flipping first 15 seconds to get you into the actual content, then it's an advert. I'm like, okay, this is testing my patience. The next thing is, and I was just looking at it now, no disrespect, because they're names of the future, and maybe I'm showing me age here, but it takes me until T8 to get to a name that I'm really kind of would class as household, which is Morikawa. I mean, Torborn Oleson's in there, Griezmann's decent player, Chris Kirk's decent player, but your major winner is Morikawa, then Fitzy's behind him, then you have to drop again until T13, Matsuyama. There's just no names. So
didn't Fitzpatrick finish like third or fourth?
Nah, he finished T8. So I don't know how much coverage he's getting, but you've then got to what in the US they do featured groups play, so you can so I can watch Fitz play if I want, but I just want to see action. And I know with Liv, everyone's sitting there going, well, they're a bit washed up, some of these, and not really the case. You got some of the young lads playing too, but Patrick Reed is entertaining to watch, especially if there's a heckler in the crowd. You got Brooksy smashing freaking T marker signs. I mean, we haven't covered that yet, and this podcast going on. But you know, the PGA Tour lads, I know we've covered it to the death. Didn't get an ounce of my attention this weekend.
Well, I'm all about players. I don't care whether it's the Players Championship, whether it's the Memorial, Jack's Place. It's about players. If the players aren't there for me to watch, I'm not tuning in. And I've said it before. I think 7, 8, 9 events on the PGA Tour you could drop because they're just not entertaining. What I will say is actually here in the UK, people listening in the UK will know this, which they do, which I think is really, really good. They do a Rolex hour. So Rolex obviously sponsor it, and it is normally the height of the coverage. So let's say it's the US Open, it's the big groups on the field, out on the course doing their thing. They have an hour of completely uninterrupted footage, no adverts, no stops, no nothing, and that is great.
Yeah, they do that in the States at the end when it gets to the end. But I mean, obviously, I'm not feeling well. I'm watching it at sporadic times, and it's just unwatchable. And then obviously, like Harrington's win. Did you see the controversy with Roger Mulby? Is it? Yeah.
Mulby, yeah.
See the controversy with that?
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Patrick couldn't even look him in the eye, could he? I mean, you know my take on it with our boy Tim Stevens. If you've got something to say, you're going to have to say it. You've got to get in there. And I don't care how big the guy is. You're saying it. You know what I mean?
I've got two thoughts.
We ain't telling your shoes, Daryl.
I want to propose a rule change. Well, actually, I want to propose two rule changes. But on that, like I remember, I saw it. It was like, this controversy. Right, you've got Podreg, who's been around, major champion, legend of the game, Roger Maltby, winner on tour. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, that's not controversy. That's two grown adults having a slight disagreement. There's no shouting, There's no pushing. It's just like, it's made out to something it's not, because basically our sport is pretty boring. There's not a lot going on. But my other take on this...
But you've been done there, lad, by the old thumbnail, haven't you? The old thumbnail.
Exactly, your clickbait. Yeah, I'm a sucker for that. Yeah,
let's get Bubsy on the thumbnail. And then you're thinking you're going to use. So basically, what we've established here is you would pay to watch a bare knuckle fight between Rog and Paddy.
I would.
But which one do you think? I mean, Harrington would annihilate.
Oh, smash him! Yeah, smash him.
I don't know.
You'd have him. Yeah.
Mate, the fitness level on your boy Rog, he'd be done after 30 seconds. Harrington would just annihilate him. I mean, he's throwing axes and shit at his own house just to gain a few yards.
Well, yeah, maybe. But here's my rule change, right? So let's say you got Harrington out in the last group. It was a US major, but I mean, do you know what? The crowds were pretty hefty, right? I watched them on the last screen. There was some people out there. So you've got someone out in, let's say, the first group, right? Maybe they qualified for this US Open. They're not really a stalwart on the seniors tour.
They're shit. No one cares about them.
How is Padraig Harrington able to have hundreds of people?
Who's he, mate? Patrick Swayze's brother. I mean, Jesus Christ. Get your words out, will you?
I'm trying to make a point here about Patrick.
It's those frickin' teeth of yours.
Right, do you know what? I just cut to it. I think the
Patrick.
player, the caddy, the players and the caddy in your group should be the only people who can look for your golf ball. End of. They shouldn't. It's not fair that the person in the last group gets 100 odd people to help look, and the person in the first group who may be trying to make some money to make their card or to pay for their house or holiday gets nobody. And I do think that's evident. Remember, way back, it would have been maybe late 90s, early 2000s. It would have been like
Evans.
the Phoenix Open. Might have been something like, is it a tournament in the desert? Tiger hits it behind this rock. I mean, we're not talking a stone. This was a rock. And he gets the crowd to push it out the way. I'm not having that. Boulder. I'm not having that. Like, it's not a level playing field. So he was having a go. For anyone who wasn't sure, Roger Maltby, on-course commentator, Harrington, Patrick, hit his ball. He was lost. He was looking for it. Roger Maltby stood watching him, and Patrick was not happy that he stood watching him, and he called him out and said, Roger, you don't just stand and watch someone looking for the ball, you should help. And Roger's comeback was along the lines of, well, actually, I'm being paid to report on this. I'm doing my job by reporting. I don't have to get involved. And I can see both sides, to be honest. But I just think, for a level playing field, why do some players get more help finding the ball than others? That should be allowed.
So let's break that down for a minute. First off, if ever there's an advert for professionalism, then you've just held it together there like an absolute legend. That's what you needed back in 1999 when you were playing in the club championship, walking to the first tee. There was chaos going on there, and you and your teeth just went straight through it. I'm impressed with that.
Just a quick note before we move on, Lauren. We had a list of potential guests. Can you just cross Patrick Harrington off that list, please?
Mate, I think that you've raised an excellent point, which should absolutely be the thumbnail capturer. Are the rules wrong? And I think that point is fantastic. I think it should just be players, caddies, and opponents that can look for playing partners, isn't it, in golf? Can look for the golf ball. I think that's fun. I love it. But as for your boy Rog, I was more upset with the way Harrington delivered the bollocking. Like, why is he looking at his shoes? He's given me a bollocking before. He didn't look at his shoes then. He flat out gave it me. So he knew that he was not certain on what he's doing. So he's giving it the shoe look. Yeah. And I think it's a bit disrespectful to Roger, in it. I mean, the fella's quite old.
I know, yeah, a bit of a
and it's like...
There's two bits there for me. One, I don't have an issue with other people helping you look for your ball, and I'll give you a valid reason why in a second. But equally, I don't think it should be an expectation that others outside of your group should help you look for your ball. But I think it would be common courtesy if they did. The reason where I see it as a benefit is things like, the US Open, which we just saw recently, not the senior one, the other one. And I'm thinking, you hit the ball in the rough there, you can't find your ball without help. So you've got watchers out all the time.
Yeah, but that's to keep pace of play going.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why you need to have someone else help you get that ball to make sure that you're not slowing the field down.
No, but if I stand, right, if I'm playing against you, Darryl, and we're playing for $4 million, right, me v you, right, and this fairway is 30 yards wide and the rough is 7 inches, and it's me and you on the golf course on our own, and if you hit it in the rough, you might consider not hitting driver. Whereas if you just go, do you know what, there's 3,000 people out there, I'm just going to blast it up there and they'll find it, it changes the whole mentality of how you approach the golf shot. If I was playing a professional tournament, I'd love it because I spray it all over the place, but they're all going to find it for me. Great.
It's not the case, though, is it? Because Gary Evans lost it on the Open that Harrington won on 17. No, it wasn't. It was Els won it. So it was going way back to like 02. And Gary Evans hit it in the left rough at Birkdale on 17. Didn't find it. Had to go back. Then made eagle with the second ball. I mean, so it's not always a given that you find your ball.
But they've got spotters. The spotters are fine. But if they can't find it, then bad luck. Back to the tee.
Yeah, I personally, I don't mind if other people are helping you look. But like, if we define that further, if you're a watcher and you're volunteering or your job that day is to follow a group and find the ball, fine. But if you're the commentator, then I think it's a bit different. I don't think your job is there to be a commentator. That's what you're there to do. So I think there is a defining difference as to what you're there to do that day.
I like that you've called the spotters watchers. If there's a watcher, what's that? like a peeper. If there's a peeper.
All done it, mate. All done it.
And my second rule change.
Yeah.
And this
that's
one, I
not
don't...
for this podcast, lad.
My second rule change, I don't really even know why I want this, because it wouldn't make any difference to me or anyone who plays the game. It might have been the US Open, and there was some coverage in the UK, and Rory's walking off the back of the green, and he stops, and he gets his little scorecard out, and you can see him writing down the scores, and he did like the last 3 holes. So he did like, you can see him doing his 3 scores, then the player he's playing with 3 scores. Why are they marking their own card? Like, really? Do we really need, in this day and age, to mark their own card? No one's coming off the course, going into score or something, going, I had 66 when they had 74. Like, what's the point? Is there any point in filling in a piece of card and handing it in? No one's trying to steal a score, are they? We're all tracking the score. What's the point? What is the point?
That's tradition.
What's the point?
It's tradition. Tradition.
It's not tradition.
But the whole point is to post the score, isn't it? So you've got to have your scorecard to post it. That's where the phrase is.
I like what you're saying, but it's very
post it.
Well, they go into the score recorder's hut, don't they?
Yeah, no, but are they walking in there and all the officials and all of us watching and all the TV crews and all the people reporting it? Is Rory walking in? They're going, I wonder what he scored. We all know what he scored.
I think
we don't need this bit of paper to tell us.
No, it's a really good point. I'd hate it, but it's a good point, and I think in the future maybe it would go there. But I will say the only time I can't stand it is when someone doesn't sign the card and gets DQ'd, or if there's signing for the wrong scores are very rare. But I know Mark Rowe years ago got DQ'd, didn't he, for not signing?
Yeah.
And that's like, what? That's stupid. That's stupid.
If it's all about posting your score, and that's how you post your score, when JJ Spawn cans a 65-footer and he goes berserk, no one's going, hang on. You haven't posted your score yet. We don't know what you've scored yet. We all know what he scored. Doesn't need a bit of paper. Get rid of it. No,
I don't agree with that. It's part of the tradition and the rules and regs of the game. It's in like football when they hand over in the big finals, they give something from the club, goes to the other club and stuff like that. There's certain things that have to stay, and you can't get rid of scorecards.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of the scorecard for the reason of posting it, kind of like it's a bit of finality to the actual event. But I also think, like you just said, not signing the card, or if there's a score in the wrong box or whatever, but your score overall is still the same, whatever. I just think that there needs to be a little bit more flex around that. It's almost like you need to go into recorders up. Was this your score today? Click, yes, I agree. No, I don't. Click, and then you're off and running. It might be as simple as that in the future.
You got to go up to the computer in the locker room, put your scores in for your handicap.
Yeah, swipe your card.
Go collect your meat after you just run your meat on a Wednesday.
That's it. Yeah, get that built on.
We've all played tournaments. It's different when we play tournaments. We've all played tournaments with other people, and you get to like the 13th hole, and you're on the tee, and your playing partner says, "Oh, what did you get on the 4th?" And you're like, "Oh, mate, I can't remember where I got on the 4th." Because you just don't remember, do you, to fill in? It's different when you play mini events, but in big events.
If you play with Tim Stevens, and what happens is he doesn't do the score until you finish. And then the poor lad that was the other lad, who was the nicest bloke in Birmingham, he gets DQ'd after he's finished. So then Tim ends up playing on his own. So I don't know who does his score then. Because I get done for the putting rule and the other lad gets done for the scorecard.
Tim Stevens, he's becoming like the Tiger King, isn't he, on our podcast? We're going to see him in jail one day, like just arrested for animal cruelty.
I did a podcast with someone the other day and they pulled me up on the Tim Stevens story. It's like, the guy's a villain. I'm telling you, he's a villain.
Apparently he hasn't been seen since last series.
Changed my whole career. If that result had gone different and I'd have won that Order of Merit, I would never have been sat here on this podcast with you for sure. Changed my whole life, that lad.
Yeah, you'd be on the challenge tour right now, wouldn't you, mate?
I'd be making that rocket.
Podreg's ball.
Patrick's. Do you know? I think it's interesting that we obviously talk with so much affection.
Oh, he's gone.
You had a call then. Someone called him. Tim Stevens has hacked your laptop, mate. He's getting you DQ'd off the Dope Show podcast show now. Oh, he's gone.
Oh, he's gone.
He's been DQ'd. Trottie's been DQ'd.
What do you think he was going to say? We talk about something with so much affection.
I have no idea, but I can't imagine it being Tim Stevens. Poor bloke's been ridiculed, isn't he?
I know. Oh, he's back now.
Oh, he's back. He's been replugged.
I mean, I tapped this, and Tim came in with his goose and goals and thought, spooky guy is out of here. I'm getting rid of him.
Did you not sign your card?
Yeah, flip it. Tradition. I think back to the point, though, I was trying to make there before Tim interrupted. Basically, what I'm trying to say is I think it's interesting and telling that we're speaking with so much passion about Patrick and the boys playing their US major opposed to the PGA Tour event. And then we're talking, obviously, with some affection about Liv. My question to you to be here as we move this to the closing stages, do you think that that comes from our age, or really do you think that these Champions Tour guys have marketed themselves better and the Liv has marketed itself better, that we're more interested in those names than we are in what's happening on the PGA Tour? And we haven't even touched on DP World Tour, by the way. I don't even, did they even play? Yeah. So what's going on there?
Yeah, well, I think the first point to unpick, I don't think, if it hadn't have been for the dust-up with Patrick Harrington, then I'm not so sure if that event might have had as much coverage, if I'm honest. Because I started to pay attention when I saw that. I also think, though, that once I then realized it was in, then I was a lot more engaged. It was almost like I needed something to get me engaged in what was happening during that event. And that dust-up just happened to be that. In the same way where Brooks basically smashed a tee marker into the crowd, that got me interested in what was happening with Liv. So it's kind of, in one way, there's things that I don't really condone, but in another way, it actually got me engaged. So it goes back to your thumbnail, right? The thumbnail was a dust-up on both tours or both events, and I was interested.
So it comes back to the marketing of the event. So therefore, TV is learning from YouTube and basically making all these things have thumbnails so that we are engaged, because they were trying to make a story about Harrington versus Stuart Sink. But obviously, Sink is such a pro that he kind of downplayed that a little bit. And as you were watching, it was like Billy Andre got a back issue. And then your names just weren't that. It was those two guys. That was it.
I also think you build... I said a minute ago, when I watch a tournament, it's more about the players. I like to watch, certain players. So if there's an event with Rory and Scotty, I'm more likely to watch than if they're not in it. And with someone like, Harrington, the longer they are on the circuit playing golf, you build a bit more of a, I guess it's a one-sided relationship, but you build a bit more of a relationship with them as a fan. You watched him do this and you watched him, win majors, and you've got more interest in him as a person versus you look at the US tour, and yet some of those guys that you mentioned there, Trottie, they're giving me names for the future, but they haven't quite got that sort of deep, you're not deeply connected to them just yet. Maybe you will do down the line. So I think certainly it's our generation. I'm kind of more interested in what Harrington's doing than Jake Knapp and Pot Gaiter, was it? Who won it in the end?
Yeah, exactly. Who I don't know who won it either. I know his... Yeah, I can't say his name. I'm in the same boat. But again, and then obviously TPI goes out this morning and just writes down about how great his golf swing is and all that. So they're trying to get on the trends of social media and yada yada. I don't know. It's hard. Everything's trying to grab your attention all the time. Golf is against other sports. It's now against YouTube. It's tough.
Well, I think commercially, if I try and look at and unpick the challenge a little bit further, yes, you're right. I think it's competing against other sports now, but it's so oversaturated that it's hard to grab your attention because every week's another tournament. It's too much. Whereas right now, I kind of feel like there's, and I'm relating this back to Premier League football or soccer for our US listeners, I'm chomping at the bit for the new season to start. I can't wait for the new season to start. But I'm having this time period now of missing the football. So when it does come in, I'm going to be engrossed in that again. And I really feel like there needs to be a much more coordinated effort across the global tours to create a more productive off-season. However that looks. But then I also...
Look at what they're doing with the football. Now you got the Club World Cup.
Yeah, but they're oversaturated. Look what Jurgen Klopp said on the weekend, where he basically said it was the worst idea that football has ever invented is the Club World Cup. And I just think that there's
clickbait.
Too much. It is clickbait, and I'll grant you that, but it's not clickbait for the benefit of the Club World Cup. He's just saying what he thinks, and the media are taking that comment and turning it into thumbnails that's going to get people clicking. But the reality is, the whole world is becoming, in terms of sport, is trying to fill their schedules far too deeply to make more money. And actually, what they're starting to do is they're starting to tune the fans out. Now, fortunately, in a game like golf, it's a very popular sport, in particular across the US. People just enjoy playing golf, even without watching professional sports or professional golf, as the case may be. But I bet you that there aren't that many people that go out for a kickabout with a soccer ball, every Sunday in the US, and then inspired independently of what they see on TV. Whereas in golf, you can still play golf without being inspired by the golfers on TV. We're inspired by the golfers on TV because we follow it. We're engaged in it. We've been close to it for a long time. We're looking at that through a different lens. But commercially, for me, there's no question that a lot of sports are just oversaturated, trying to demand your attention all the time. And that's not creating any innovation in these sports.
I'll tell you where I notice it. I notice it the most. And I've said for a while, I think there's too many golf tournaments. But you get the majors. I love the majors because obviously it's the strongest field. You get the best players together, and the build up to them is great. We're more invested in the course and who's playing, and then you get hopefully a great climax on Sunday, and you get the winner, and then you get the post round interviews, and they maybe come out on the Monday, and then you get some behind the scenes of the winner and what they did afterwards, and then it comes to Tuesday, and there's another event, and I'm like, I'm not ready for another event yet. I don't need another event yet. I can still enjoy the sort of stuff that's coming out of the clips and stuff. And I just think that is where it really kind of shows it to me, is that they're trying to squeeze another event in when I don't think the golfing world needs anything.
But that might be catered for the fella that shit himself at the weekend and needs to recover so that he can stop doing anything on a Tuesday.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Well, there is a fundamental reason why that happens, though, Bubs. And, having spoken to sort of the higher people at the European Tour, they are measured on two key things. One is to provide playing opportunities for their members, meaning more tournaments. And another one is to provide more prize money to the players, which means more tournaments. So the actual incentive is not to decrease the amount of events, because that's not what they measured against. And that's part of the problem.
But surely if it's money, what was that second point? You said they're prize fund.
Yes, well, to create more prize money opportunities, but it's all about the number of events, which adds up the prize money collectively.
But surely, and I know we've got to get towards wrapping here, but if it's prize money, surely you can generate more revenue, more prize money from a stronger field. Yes. And when you put events every single week, you're forcing yourself down a route of one where you're going to get weaker fields.
It goes back to the old adage, though, mate. Is it a good YouTube video that's a banger, or do you put out smaller ones more often?
Well, I mean, yeah, the numbers would tell you the second. And I just think when I look at DP World Tour, I just think if you were to get rid of 5 or 6 events on the PGA Tour and have stronger fields, surely you can leverage those better. You can create... I've said this before, but if I've got a shop and I've got 10 products that are selling really well and 10 products that aren't selling, I get rid of the 10 that aren't selling and I try and elevate the 10 that are selling really well and try and generate my revenue that way. Now, clearly, I'm not a business person. I'm not running the PGA Tour, although we do have a new person in charge, so maybe we should touch on that next week. But I just, to me, it feels like false economy.
Well, I think it is a bit of a false economy to a degree, but part of the challenge, in particular with the European Tour, is that they have 2 different types of promoters of the events. So how it works is that if you're the European Tour, you can run and stage and do everything as your own tournament, which means you're responsible for securing your own sponsors, your own revenue coming through the gate, et cetera, et cetera. If you're the promoter of the tour, of an event, you pay the tour a sanction fee, which allows you to have a tournament that will count towards the order of merit on the European Tour. But it means that you are responsible for all of the sponsors, the TV rights, all the revenue and everything else that comes through the door. That's your responsibility. So if you don't have that wider support from the tour, you're only leveraging one event. So in the grand scheme of things, for me, if I was to do it, and I'm only saying it from my perspective, I would have way less promoters. In an ideal world, I wouldn't have any promoters. I would just have all of them to be run specifically by the European Tour. Because if that's the case, they can leverage multiple tournaments with the same sponsors, not just one. The downside is that, and I'm going to get this number slightly wrong, but I want to say that the European Tour promote roughly about maybe 10 to 12 of their own events. And there's pretty much 40 events on the schedule. So there's a lot of events that they're really reliant on the promoters for to bring in prize money. So until they've got that formula worked out, which I know that they're trying to model a lot more on the PGA Tour, I just feel like they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place and trying to solve that problem, because you go to some of the events and there's like no fans there. There's nothing going on. It's like where have I come? Oh, you come to the morgue. It's not a golf tournament. And you go to other events like the BMW at Wentworth down the road from us, and it's mega.
That's
right.
phenomenal.
But it's a European Tour event, great location, easy to get to. It's just everything's just a little bit different. So I do think it's quite a difficult thing to answer. But then I also think that the European Tour are not necessarily measuring themselves against the benchmark for the greater good of the game. It's just player prize money and playing opportunities. And the playing opportunities is a big one, because you could finish 5th on the Challenge Tour rankings from the previous season, or Q School. You do well in Q School. And if you're not in the top sort of 3 players, you're probably not going to get a great schedule anyway. This is the whole misnomer about Q School. Everyone goes, oh yeah, I've got my card because I've gone through Q School. Have your bollocks, because you've got to go through a whole season of playing pretty decent golf to secure your actual playing rights for the following year. So it's almost like
starts.
Of rubbish starts, exactly. So you play Q School, which is more like an interview for a job. Then you're actually on probation for the next 12 months while you work out whether you're actually good enough to be on the tour. And then if you're lucky enough, because you're in the top 3, to get the right starts, then you've actually got a tour card. The stat is something like 3 or 4 out of every 25 players that come through Q School gets their tour card the following season. That's how hard it is. And it's not necessarily down to bad golf. It's just crap tournaments. And that's the difference.
I just think, like, we've obviously got this podcast. It comes out on Tuesday. If we start getting incredible listens, potentially we go, do you know what? People are loving this. Let's do one on a Friday. But we would never go, oh, that's working. Let's do one on a Thursday and let's do one on a Wednesday. And you wouldn't have one 7 days a week, because you realise that actually there's a tipping point. And I think when you get to 25 tournaments a year, to me, that feels like a tipping point. And they've just tried to do too much. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think an off season would be gold for me. And if it started in like October through to December, that sort of time period, more or less, and golf gets going again in January, I think that's great. Every other sport has an off season. Golf has has a 3-day off season. You end on a Sunday and you start again the following Thursday. Well, how stupid's that?
I tell you what, we would find though potentially happening is you have this off season. That's October to let's say February, and then you might get, as sort of happens now, you might get Tiger hosting his own event in December. Then you might get Bryson hosting his own event, and they're going to get the players there and end up without an off season. So if the PGA Tour don't do it, someone else is probably going to do it.
And then you get the TGL.
Then you get the TGL. Yeah, exactly. If there's a space in the schedule, someone will try and fill it.
Tiger's event, the TGL, they're not bad things though, are they?
No,
well, it's different, isn't it?
That's the thing. As long as it's not the same, if you're bringing things that are new to the game, I think I think it can work. But if you're bringing the same to the game, I just think it's more of more, which is not necessarily always good.
Well,
anyway,
I think more of more from Patrick and you. That was good energy. Thanks, lads.
Yeah, that was good. And,
if you want to catch...
Daz has got some contacts at the DP World Tour. So if anybody listening would like to be a watcher, you can contact Daryl. He'll sort you out.
A bloody watcher. I mean, Daryl's selling Peeper T-shirts for the DP World Tour events.
Do you know what? It goes right back to season 1 when he was talking about a golf course and he said the runniness.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
The open in a few weeks. That will be very runny.
It will be
extremely runny. Daryl will be in his element.
I will be. I can't wait to get there. It's going to be good. But anyway, we should close out this podcast now because I got a new car today and I want to go and give it a test drive. So listen, lads, enjoy the rest of your week. I'll see you boys next week.